Hello, everybody. Good evening. Hope you're doing well today. Welcome to the show. It's my 15th episode, which is like pretty exciting. Um, Welcome to Mindset Shifts and the What Ifs. I am your host, Lauren Lefkowitz. I'm an executive coach, and I work with people who are stuck in the trap of being fine. And so tonight, I'm excited to be here and talk to you. I think tonight might be a short one, a little under the weather, I'm a little tired, and also always excited to show up here. So I'm going to both take care of this and be here and be present, and also make it a short one so that I can take care of me tonight. Tell me how you're doing in the comments. Let me know how things are going. I am streaming right now on Restream, and that takes me to LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube. And I am also on Instagram. So if you're seeing me on Instagram, you're seeing a little bit of a behind the scenes chat or view. If you want to join me over on LinkedIn or Facebook, you will get to see the spinning wheel. The way this show works is that each time I come on, I spin a wheel, and that gives us our topic for the evening. And then I start talking about it. So let's give that a whirl. And you'll see that I get really excited about it every time, even though I have determined the topics. So here we go. We're going to give the wheel a spin and see what our topic is for tonight. Ooh, toxic workplaces. Good one. Yeah, this is a great topic to talk about. So we're going to talk about toxic workplaces, and we're going to talk about how to know if the workplace is toxic or if like you're just burned out. And please feel free to comment either on Instagram or on LinkedIn or Facebook. And let me know where you've been. Let me know what your toxic work environment has been. But first, I'm going to talk a little bit about burnout, even though that's not the topic, because sometimes, and this is really not the norm, this is the like sometimes every once in a while kind of thing, but sometimes we feel like our workplace has gotten toxic, and the truth is that we're burned out. If that's the case, then you're probably walking around thinking like, is it me? Right? Is it me, or is it this place? And if things haven't changed in the place, but you are no longer enjoying yourself, you are no longer thriving, then it might be you in burnout, which is a topic for another night. What I'm going to talk about tonight is the toxic workplace and what the signs are of a toxic workplace. And it's hard to tell, one, because we gaslight ourselves, and two, because those around us gaslight us. And if you aren't familiar with the term gaslighting, it is taking your truth and twisting it so that you don't recognize it anymore, or that you doubt what the things you think are true. We see this in abusive relationships. We see this in narcissistic relationships. We see this in workplaces quite a lot, actually, with people who aren't necessarily abusive or narcissistic, but they've been trained by a system to smooth things over and make everything okay and make everybody get along and have everybody pitch in and do extra work. And so we get trained often into this level of toxicity where we are bright-siding things for our employees. We are being bright-sided, right? Oh, at least we still have jobs. Oh, at least we still have stuff to do. At least nobody from our department got laid off in the layoff. And so a lot of toxic workplaces start with their foundation of, we're lucky to have a job. We're lucky to be employed. We're lucky to be at this level. We're lucky we got raises, right? So there's this sort of lucky stream underlying. that leads you into this belief system that you better appreciate what you've got, even if it's actually like not that great. So that is one sort of foundational level of toxicity that can come about when you're working in a toxic environment. Another level of toxicity that can come about is directly from your manager or from your manager's manager and carried down. And so you'll see this when you have maybe an out of touch CEO who doesn't really understand what people do and how long things take and how the office actually really works. And they just like have a get it done attitude without sort of putting in the care and compassion that comes with being a good leader. The next level toxicity, now your direct manager can be toxic all on their own. But in a case where there's toxicity from the top, if you're not reporting to the CEO, if you report to somebody who reports to the CEO or who's in a reporting line, down from the CEO, is that if the CEO is toxic and if the CEO has set toxic expectations, the next level of management is going to carry that forward a lot of the time, because if they had fight in them to stand for you, to stand for themselves, it might have been worked out of them. It might have been taken to the point where like nobody's paid attention to them, so they don't have the energy or spirit to pay attention to you and take care of you. In a case when it's not the CEO sort of line management, excuse me. In a case where it's not the CEO line of management and it's just like your direct leader, or your leadership team, if you're on the leadership team, it can be members of your leadership team. In that case, sometimes you're just working with a jerk. Sometimes that jerk is discriminatory or is harassing in a way that is considered legal harassment, which is typically harassment of a sexual or violent nature. But sometimes your manager's just a jerk, and that stinks. And when your manager is a jerk and you're working now in a workplace that is toxic because of your line of management, that is a hard battle to win. And I do not often tell people like it's time to get you out of there. A lot of my clients come to me and they want to get out of where they are for a variety of reasons. And sometimes it is toxicity. But I have had clients come to me where they are so on their last leg of being able to stand where they are because of a very toxic manager that sometimes the first thing we do is get them out. I was talking about this earlier. I was on a live with Jack Kelly, which was awesome. Go back and watch that if you get a chance, and I will repost it tomorrow. But we were talking about bridge jobs, which is the job between the job you want, right? So you have to get out of your situation, or you've been laid off and you need to get something. And so sometimes the short answer to escaping a toxic workplace is getting a bridge job, which is, like I said, it's the job between the jobs. It's the job where, excuse me, it's the job where you're taking something to have something. I never recommend doing that in a pay cut if you can avoid it, if you are employed and you're choosing to leave. And also sometimes like that's the deal. I also want you to know that unfortunately, in this sort of normal but not fine spectrum of things, it is pretty normal to be in a toxic workplace. It is pretty normal to be in a toxic environment. And I know that's really like a bummer to hear, but also know that you're not alone if you're in a toxic workplace. And there are solutions to either take a stand for yourself in the workplace, and I will come to that next, and or decide to leave and become a powerful job seeker, which requires some research and some work. And sometimes if you want to change careers or industries, you may benefit from coaching, which is how I ended up going from a VP of HR position out to my own business, was that I finally worked with a coach who helped me figure out that was what I could do. So if you're in a toxic work environment and you want to get out of that environment and you've done what you can, and again, I'm going to talk about what you can do before leaving in a moment, but if you need to get out of that toxic work environment, your options are, if you have money saved, you can quit and look while you're at your leisure, while you have money to take out of savings or a spouse or partner to support you. And some people have done that, and that used to be super frowned upon. But since the pandemic, there are a lot of people who have had the luxury of being able to take time off. And hey, David, thanks for joining. Who have been able to take time off because they have had savings or somebody else to support them. And because of the pandemic and the shift in how people were taking time off, it is less frowned upon. And if you go into an interview or you apply for a job and you're not currently employed and they say, why did you leave your last job? You can have it was time for me to go. It wasn't growing anymore. And I had the luxury of having some savings so I could take a little bit of time off. That is way more accepted than it used to be. You can also, like I said, go to a bridge job, a job that is just a job to get you out of the job so your head can clear so you can figure out what the actual job is that you need or want next. And then there's also the option of trying to work on it. And you may decide to look because you don't want to work on it. You don't want to put the time and energy into fixing a toxic workplace or your place in a toxic workplace. But you also might want to try to fix it. And so, depending on your company, depending on its culture, depending on who you are reporting to, depending on how gossipy or not gossipy it is, only you'll be able to assess whether you can do something about the toxicity. I have seen it done. I've seen it done a lot. And I've seen it done in two ways. One is that you, as the employee, start setting boundaries. You set boundaries around what you're willing to do, what you're willing to raise your hand for, what you're willing to say yes or no to, that you're going to do or not going to do in terms of like stretch projects or helping other departments or staying late, that you can learn to do some boundary setting so that your energy ends at the end of your workday and that you have an end of the workday, that you're not taking calls and responding to emails all night and first thing in the morning. So that's one thing that you can do is you can slowly and surely set some new boundaries. Another thing that you can do is start having conversations. And these are not coworker commiseration conversations. When you're in a toxic position where you are at work, you are not in a position where talking to your peer level coworkers or people who report to you is going to be effective and impactful. In fact, it's often more damaging and it brings on more angst among everybody. And so you will want to make sure that you're taking the correct avenues, whether that is your manager, if it's the workplace that's toxic and your manager is able to help advocate for you, whether it is a skip level manager, whether it's HR. And I know some of you are going to scream, never trust HR. But I was trustworthy HR. There is trustworthy HR out there. And there's also not trustworthy HR. So there's some judgment calling in there about who you can decide to trust. And like I said, sometimes there isn't somebody. Sometimes there isn't somebody to go to, and the environment is what it is. And you get to decide, do you want to stay in that and learn how to protect your boundaries and your energy? Or do you want to leave? Do you want to go and get something else? My point is this, and I'm going to leave you with this tonight. Like I said, it's going to be a short one tonight. My point is this. Simply because you are currently in a toxic workspace, simply because your workplace is filled with toxicity, whether it's your direct manager, whether it's the whole company, whether it's your region or section or department, you have a choice. It is so easy. And I don't use easy as like cop out. I use easy as familiar and comfortable, even though it's uncomfortable. It is easy to stay where you are and to think that with this toxicity that's coming at you, you're not qualified for something else. So part of the work in escaping a toxic work environment and going towards something that you want instead of simply running away from the toxic environment is really taking the time and energy to decide what you want to be when you grow up, who you want to be when you grow up. And you get to have that choice. And it is hard when you're in a toxic environment because often you're sort of beaten down into this place where you think that you might be part of the problem, or you think that you've been in such a toxic environment that you can't thrive somewhere else. So pay attention to you in all of this. That's really my final point is you deserve your own time and energy. You have earned the right, just by being a human being, you have earned the right to find a workplace that is going to serve you, that is going to treat you well, that is going to pay you well, and value you and your work. And while there are a lot of toxic workplaces out there, and while we hear about those more than we hear about the great workplaces, there are great companies out there, and it is worth your time and energy to go and find that for yourself. If this conversation is resonating with you and you are thinking, I don't know how to do it, I want you to know you are not alone in this. You and I can have a conversation about where you are and see if coaching is for you. And if it's not, what else might be for you. And you have the capacity to look out for yourself, to figure out how you want things to be and to go after it. You're not alone. Have a great night. And thanks so much for joining me.